As a Black artist, I'm very mindful of the fact that we do not constantly need to be creating trauma for the work to be valuable. You know what I'm saying? Like, our white counterparts are afforded the luxury of being not only just mediocre, but having work that is just art for art's sake. And oftentimes Black artists aren't afforded that luxury. We as Black artists are oftentimes, you know, forced to create work about trauma to even get a seat at the table, or to even, be valued, or to even be, seen as legitimate artists.
Welcome back to Shining a Light, the show where we shine a light on the activist of the week. This week's activist is M. Jamesley St. Louis, a multidisciplinary artist from South Florida whose work focuses on portraying Black lives and experiences accurately. M. Jamesley received the Scholastic Art Award for Best Teen Art of 2020. He's a recipient of the 2020 Silver Knight Award for Art, and he's the youngest artist to be given studio space at Bailey Contemporary Arts. I'm out here in New York City, he's in Florida, and we were able to connect thanks to the magic of 2020. Like this video, subscribe to Shine Global, and make sure you click that bell icon so you can stay tuned for the activist of the week. All right, let's get into it.
So I feel like a way it'd be fun for our audience to get to know you is I want to read some of your recent tweets.
Oh, wow.
And then I want you to speak to them, or kind of give us like an insight into what you were feeling or thinking when you tweeted.
Go ahead.
So somebody tweeted, "What was y'all known for in high school? Be honest." And you wrote "The Art Kid." When did the Art Kid become your identity?
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. For as long as I can remember, I've been the art kid. Honestly, ever since I was a wee thing, or as we call it in South Florida, a jit. Ever since I was a jit, I have been creating work. I've been drawing. You know what I mean? Like, ever since I could hold a pencil, I've been drawing. So I've always been the art kid. I've always been the individual you went to if you needed an artsy project done.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever there was group projects and we needed an artist, I was always the first to get picked. And so, that's always been a part of, who I am. And
were you that kid making the duct tape wallets?
The duct tape wallets? I never did that. What did I do, though? I used to design bookmarks, though. That was
really?
Right. So I used to design bookmarks out of paper, and I'd have like little pockets where you could put your pencil. It was flimsy, but it worked.
So in your artist statement, you write that you lovingly center Black people, Black culture, Black joy, Black moments, and at times Black trauma in your work.
Mm-hmm.
Were you doing that in your bookmarks back then, or when did that element enter in?
That element didn't start until high school, because when you're young, I don't think you're thinking about the ways in which the system has failed you, or the ways in which the system does not present itself to benefit you or the people that look like you. So for a very long time, it was just something that I was just creating for creation's sake, and because it brought me peace and joy. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until high school that the work became more about not just myself, but an extension of my values, and an extension of my morality as a human being. So I want to say that definitely culminated after the police brutality series. And, I say in that series particularly, I'm very jaded on it, because I have a lot of appreciation for the way it has thrusted me into my politicization. But I also have critique on the work itself, because as a Black artist, I'm very mindful of the fact that we do not constantly need to be creating trauma for the work to be valuable. You know what I'm saying? Like, our white counterparts are afforded the luxury of being not only just mediocre, but having work that is just art for art's sake. And, oftentimes Black artists aren't afforded that luxury. And so, as much as I do appreciate that work, I do have critique on how I felt that I needed to make work around trauma, and how, we as Black artists and artists of color are oftentimes, forced to create work about trauma to even get a seat at the table, or to even, be valued, or to even be, seen as legitimate artists.
So you're saying you want a world where you can just create whatever, you want to be able to make those bookmarks again with no politicalization of your mind or your work, and have that just be okay.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't be able to make work about, the things that we go through, but I think there should be nuance to that. I don't feel like every Black artist should be a Black artist. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we as Black people should be awarded the term artist as just individuals, and whether our Blackness plays into that should be up to our decision and not something that is, afforded to us, and not, this is a Black artist. You know what I mean? And so for me, it's not saying that I don't want to necessarily make the work about my politicization. Rather, I want Black artists and, artists in general who aren't white to be given the opportunity to make work about whatever it is that they want to make work about, that doesn't necessarily have to be politicized, racial, or, about any form of trauma.
Yes. Okay. Somebody tweeted, artists who can draw hands, how does it feel to be God's favorite? And you wrote, I'm only good because I spent years doodling my left hand as practice.
Yeah, that's true. I spent, like, you know what I mean? Like, I doodle a lot, and math class, history, reading, language arts, I was doodling. And oftentimes the thing that was most available to me was my hand, because I draw directly from life. And so I drew my hand a lot.
So when you say, I know it like the back of my hand, you mean it?
No, I mean it. Like, it's there. It's always there.
You wrote, I want an end to patriarchy, not only for the well-being of women, but for the well-being of men, especially young men, namely boys.
Yeah, I think, as an individual who has been socialized in this society, I recognize that the ways in which I have been socialized have not always been to the benefit of myself as a human being, and I have not always been to the benefit of, me as a Black man. Like, I want an end to patriarchy, not just for women, but for men too. Like, and I say that in the most kindest and sincere way possible, because I think that patriarchy not only negatively affects women in the ways that it creates an unequal distribution of power dynamics between the two genders in this, binary system, but I also think that it negatively impacts how men present themselves in society as well. This idea that we need to constantly be macho, and we need to constantly be manly all the time is like, that's detrimental. You know what I mean? And so, and for an individual like me who has, experienced mental health issues and have, had my fair share of mental health crises, I recognize that patriarchy, in the ways in which it teaches men toxic masculinity, has not always been to the benefit of my health, mentally, physically, and emotionally. It has not always been to the benefit of my well-being, in the way that, men are not awarded the same level of compassion or kindness when we have issues or when we are going through periods of trauma. It's like, oh, suck it up and be a man about it. You know what I mean? And so men are not only toxic towards other individuals, but inevitably are toxic towards themselves, in the way that we are taught not to afford ourselves compassion, kindness, and care.
All right, you ready to play three things?
Go ahead.
Three songs that get you amped.
3 songs that get me amped. Okay. First on the list, Backseat Freestyle by Kendrick Lamar.
That's all you need. Who needs 2 more songs when you have Backstreet Freestyle?
Backseat Freestyle.
3 people you look up to.
First and foremost, shout out to Shanice Ailey, my best friend, my partner, my girlfriend. She, brings light to my life every day. I look up to her every day. One more, or 2 more rather. I look up to my younger self. This is gonna sound kind of weird. I look up to my younger self, and what I mean by younger self, I'm like my childlike self, because when you're young, you aren't socialized yet, and so you're able to exist freely. So I look up to my younger self because he wasn't afraid to be himself in any situation. And I look up to Toyin Oji Aditola, and she's a artist. And the reason why I look up to her, not only because of her art, but because of her commitment to growth as an individual, and also her commitment to creating work that, speaks to that growth and speaks to that understanding. So I look up to her.
If you were to design 3 t-shirts, what 3 slogans?
This is the one that I've been saying for a really long time. It's, the world ain't shit now. It's probably not gonna be shit tomorrow, and it's probably not gonna be shit next week. But at the same time, you still have to work to not only better it, but better yourself.
I would buy that shirt.
Right. A slogan I look up to is Black Lives Matter. And lastly, what's another slogan that I enjoy? To be radical is to challenge everything.
Oh yeah. You wrote, being radical means challenging even the most harmless of your thoughts, actions. It means questioning the justification for the actions we have deemed conscious, righteous, and even benign.
Right. It's like to question, like, to question everything, seriously. Like, and not saying that to say that you need to spend your entire day contemplating on like your every action, but it means to when your thoughts are challenged and your opinions are challenged, it's not to get defensive, but to actively question and investigate why does you feel this way, or why does you have receive things in this manner. And so me as an individual, I'm fallible. Like I'm certainly not perfect, and I don't always get things right. But I'm actively working to challenge my own socialization to make sure that I'm doing the most that I can do to be as considerate, cognizant, compassionate, and gentle to all the individuals in my life, and as well as myself.
Em, thank you so much for your time today, for being on Shining a Light. It's been wonderful having you.
Thank you. I ain't gonna talk about 45 now. I enjoy, being a no-named artist. I promise I'm not trying to be on CNN tonight.